Premier League and Championship clubs can no longer complete permanent transfers, so one option they might consider if their squad needs a boost is the free agent market. Despite the season already kicking off, there are still a host of players who are without a club and no doubt doing all they can to secure a contract this summer, or if you happen Ben Arthur, playing 1v1 in his garden against his mate. There are some big names who are still without a club, and ones that would certainly enhance a few squads, or at least turn some heads. Here is this summer's free agent 11. In goal is Oscar Ustari. Once a Football Manager wonderkid, Oscar Ustari's career hasn't been quite as illustrious as the management computer game predicted back when he was just a baby in Argentina. Along with him and Guillermo Ochoa, they were your go-to keepers. But while Ochoa still has a bit of a reputation, Ustari's career has been nothing short of disappointing, and one that has been ruined by injuries. Ustari did briefly come to England for a spell with Sunderland under Gus Poyet, but never made a league appearance for the Black Cats. Most recently he played for Club Atlas in Mexico, suffering a serious knee injury back in November last year. The 32-year-old had successful surgery but left Atlas, so is now without a club, so if your team needs a former wonderkid goalkeeper who didn't live up to the hype and has the tendency to injure himself, we've got the man for you. At right back we've got Glenn Johnson. A Premier League, League Cup and FA Cup winner, 33-year-old Glenn Johnson is without a club. The fullback departed Stoke at the end of the season, having made 9 league appearances as the Potter slid in at the second tier of English football. Johnson had 3 underwhelming years at Stoke, but the former England international must have been hindered by the fact he was wearing the number 8 on his back. I mean, what was that about? It was just totally wrong. A solid enough defender over the years, surely Johnson will get himself a club soon enough. But he might have to play in the Championship for the first time since a loan spell at Millwall in 2003. Before I did this, I quickly typed in Glenn Johnson retire into Twitter to see I hadn't missed something, and this is what came up. Poor bloke, Robbers13 was clearly not a fan. In fact, there was a lot of people wanting Johnson to retire 4 years ago. Obviously he didn't read the mean tweets. Centre back is John Terry. The former Chelsea captain was at Aston Villa last season, and despite his hella old legs, performed very well over the campaign, playing his part in Villa's journey to the playoff final, where they were beaten 1-0 by Fulham. As Villa's promotion hopes came to an end, so did Terry's Villa career, having only signed on for a year, and with financial difficulties at the club, they were unable to negotiate another deal for Terry. When Frank Lampard agreed to become the new Derby County boss, it seemed certain that Terry would follow his old mate to Pride Park, but that hasn't happened, maybe because Terry didn't want to be bossed around by someone he used to captain. Despite his age though, Terry proved he can still do a job, and surely has another year in him if he can find the right club. But then again, he probably doesn't need to, considering he's probably rating it in doing punditry for some Egyptian TV channel. He's alongside Diego Reyes. The youngest player in this team at the ripe old age of 25, Diego Reyes was linked with a host of Premier League clubs earlier this month, but remains without a club as he nurses a hamstring injury that ruled him out of the World Cup. West Ham, Watford and Newcastle were all keen to sign Reyes on a free, following his release from Porto, but the Mexican is still a free agent and his name will crop up for any club who is now looking for a new defender. Sadly for Reyes, you just know if he'd made it to the World Cup, he'd definitely have a new club by now. Left back is Jesus Gomez. Released by Newcastle in the summer, Jesus Gomez's career has somewhat stalled ever since he left Atletico Madrid back in 2016. A man who's capable of playing at either right back or left back, the versatile Gomez has had injury bother over the past couple of years that restricted him to just 10 Newcastle appearances in all competitions, 2 of which came in the Premier League last season. Strong in possession and intelligent on the ball, Gomez might be best off favouring a move back to Spain, where he spent all of his career other than his brief Newcastle holiday. At 33, teams might be put off though by his age and recent injury record. In holding midfield is Jack Rodwell. A man hated across Sunderland, fans on Wearside will be ecstatic to know that Jack Rodwell is still without a club, having fleeced the Mackhams out of wages over the past season, sitting on his massive wage, barely playing a minute, while the Black Cats slid into the 3rd tier of English football. Rodwell was eventually released from his contract this summer and somehow nearly got a Premier League move, with Watford offering him a trial that didn't end with a contract for the former Manchester City midfielder. Rodwell used to be one of the highest rated talents in English football, but his career fell off a cliff, and it's unclear why teams would take a risk on him considering his lack of desire to rebuild said career while at Sunderland. He's alongside Claudio Marchisio. Initially when I was making this video, I had Claudio Jacob in midfield, but then just as I was about to finish off, I saw the news that Claudio Marchisio had mutually terminated his contract at Juventus, so the Italian is in and the Argentinian shithouse is out. Other than his brief loan spell at Empoli, Marchisio has spent his full career in Turin, playing 389 times for the club, winning 7 Serie A titles and 4 Coppa Italias. Add to that a Serie B title, and Claudio Marchisio is Juventus through and through, so it'll be strange to see him playing for someone else. A fantastic midfielder, Marchisio is still a fine player at the age of 32 and would improve most midfields. On the right of attack is Hatem Ben Arfa. We mentioned him in the introduction, and Hatem Ben Arfa is still a free agent, despite his best efforts to impress scouts and coaches on his Instagram story. Ben Arfa's PSG nightmare ended this summer, having been exiled by Unai Emery, who had no place for the fleet-footed Frenchman in his side. Ben Arfa is a player with all the talent in the world, there's no denying that. Some Newcastle fans still pine about the days he used to strut around St James's Park with a number 10 on his back, but Ben Arfa has often fallen out with managers, clearly being a hard character to manage. At 31 years old though, you'd certainly take a punt on a player with an eye for the spectacular, especially if you're a team lacking in creativity. In attacking midfield is Yaya Toure. Birthday cake enthusiast Yaya Toure spent the summer off, having ended his illustrious Manchester City career at the end of last season, capping it off with the third Premier League title since he arrived from Barcelona. The powerhouse midfielder was of course linked with the move to West Ham following the arrival of Manuel Pellegrini, his former manager, but that hasn't happened, which is probably a good thing. Toure was also incredibly linked with the move to Burnley, which definitely wouldn't have worked. He's not your typical Sean Dyche workhorse, is he? Where will Yaya Toure end up? In everyone's football manager team, that's where. On the left is SAMIR NASRI. Another former Manchester City midfielder. While SAMIR NASRI is still a free agent, there's not actually that much point in signing him right now, but he's a marquee name so he's made it into this starting 11. NASRI is currently banned by UEFA for breaching the world anti-doping rules, with his footballing exile being extended by 12 months the other week following a failed appeal. NASRI's 18-month ban began on July 1st, 2017, and he will be allowed to return to training on November 1st this year, so if you need a fancy playmaker who looks a bit like a woman for the second half of the season, SAMIR NASRI could be your man. And up front it's LACINA TRAORE. Let's be honest lads, LACINA TRAORE isn't very good. The beanpole striker was once somewhat prolific in Russia many moons ago, but since the 2013-14 season, he hasn't managed more than 5 league goals in a season, racking up 11 league goals since he left Anzi Makachkala in January 2014. The Ivory Coast international had a brief and forgettable spell on loan at Everton where he managed just one Premier League game, and last season was on loan in France, failing to score for Amiens in 18 appearances. This is hardly a glowing reference, so it's difficult to see why any goal-shy team would consider free agent LACINA TRAORE as the answer to their problems. Other free agent strikers include Darren Bent and Gabi Agbonlahor, so maybe it's best just to wait until January to sign someone. So that's our free agents 11. Let us know in the comments below whether or not you think your team should sign any of these players. Thanks for watching and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.